What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gersh1.
And today we're back at it, adjusting stuff, looking down, as we get into another For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, simply comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. That is what Captain Swindletooth Gobsmack did. He asks, do Gork and Mork have their own realms in the warp? Is it where the Orkiest orcs go when they die? That's a good question. So for all those that don't know, the orc race worships two deities known as Gork and Mork. One is cunningly brutal, the other is brutally cunning. And they are the warp manifestations of the psychic powers of the orcs.
Well, it's not really psychic in the terms of warp. It's its own thing, isn't it?
So yes and no. It uses warp power to manipulate probability, so it works differently than like Eldar psychic powers or like human psychers, but they still register within the warp as psychic beings, going back to like the whole, like an Eldar would be like a giant flame in the warp. An orc would probably be a smaller flame than like something as psychically powerful as the Eldar. But from the very beginning, check out our 40 facts on the Quarks or the Brain Boys if you don't, or if you want more information on that. But from the very beginning, the old ones created the orcs and the Eldar to be psychically powerful to fight the Necrons. And that psychic might developed or created the gods Gork and Mork. Which, if everything goes according to plan, this video will go out the same day or the day or tomorrow, a video explaining how the God Emperor is being turned into a god, just like Gork and Mork, just like the Eldar gods, and all that kind of cool stuff. But anyways, does Gork and Mork have their own realm? No, not to the extent of...
like the Chaos Gods.
Right, yeah. And the reason for that is because of the way Gork and Mork are worshipped. They're worshipped by the orcs, but not every single orc venerates Gork and Mork. They're really just more of like in the back of someone's mind. Like if the question of where the orcs came from ever pops into an orc's head, which usually it's the head of a runt herder or a runtifer, then all of a sudden that manifestation, or that is where the Gork and Mork manifestation comes from. And because the orcs don't like pray or they don't really like worship Gork and Mork, it's really more about worshiping their own rage and their own woes. That manifestation in the warp is strong enough for their race, but not strong enough to compete against the Chaos God of blood, the Chaos God of treachery, disease, stuff like that. And then there was another point that I wanted to make, but I already forgot.
So you're saying since orcs aren't actively praising them, they're not essentially as strong as other gods.
Yeah, essentially. Yep. An orc never bothers to sit down and actually try to think about the Brain Boys or to think about like Gork and Mork and what they represent.
So it's more so that the gods are getting their power from the actions of the orc, which is being brutally cunning or cunningly brutal. But at the end of the day, as long as an orc fights, that's enough to give rise to these gods.
Yeah, and I think there's always going to be like a struggle. We've talked about the minor chaos gods. Gork and Mork would be considered one of the minor chaos gods, just like the Eldar, like Cain, Segura would be considered minor chaos gods. Because if you break it down, Gork and Mork represent Khorne's
like
emotions.
Brutality, yeah. The will to be better than everybody else, which also ties into Slaanesh, because you're trying to perfect your craft to be the best war boss, have the biggest wall, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so in a way, Khorne is actually stealing from the psychic emotions that the orcs are putting out when they go and get stuck in, and they're all about war and whatnot. So I hope that makes sense. It's tricky. We're going to continue to explain more about what happens after someone dies in the Warhammer 40K world. If not, we do have videos that we've gone in depth in those things. So just check out the 40 facts on death. I think it is something like that.
The afterlife, I believe.
Yeah, the afterlife.
Yep.
There you go.
Interesting question. Good
Yeah.
question. This one is by Pineapple. And recently I've been eating a lot of pineapple. I don't know why, but it's just been around me.
You know what pineapple's good for?
The skin.
Sure.
What if Russ didn't fight Magnus? Or that he came to his senses earlier? Like, would he still have fought Horus? Well, Lehman Russ, he was known as the Emperor's lapdog, the executioner. So when Horus was like, hey, I need you to take care of Magnus, like, I still think he would have done it. Because, for one, Lehman Russ didn't like Psychers. He already had like a little feud going on with 1,000 Suns and Magnus. So I still think he would have gone to the city of Tisca and laid siege to it.
Now let's say Russ never got the order from Horus to go assault Tisca or Prospero.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Magnus would have betrayed the Emperor?
Yes. It was all fated, all because of Zeech's machinations. So in one way or another, I still think it would have happened.
He's the most psychically powerful Primarch, so it would make sense that the gods would like target him. It's like, oh, we really need to bring him over to our side.
Yeah, like if it wasn't Horus, I think Magnus would be the next prime candidate to be like the leader of the heresy, the Magnus heresy.
The Magnus heresy. Even though he did nothing wrong. The memes. Next question comes from Nat20 Damage. Does the Emperor fart? And if so, is it linked through Vox so that the whole Imperium could hear his mighty guff?
Guff.
So whenever you like, I've watched Black Hawk Down, and portions of Black Hawk Down is like the soldiers are going through the city, which is predominantly like it's like Islam lives there, or is like it's predominantly Muslims there. So they have those Vox, or not Vox, but they have like the announcements of like the prayer, like going to prayer. So I imagine that is what Terra sounds like. Like every like hour you hear like through Vox communications, you need to pray or venerate the Emperor in some way. It would be funny that instead of having like Arabic chanting, it would just be the Emperor farting. And that's when you should pray to the Emperor.
Yep. He passes gas, so we will pass our prayer.
Yeah. So the answer to the question, yes, he does. Next question.
This one's by Timothy Mano Fuerte, a.k.a. Armstrong. Besides the Primarchs of the Imperium, do other races in 40K have named heroes? Of course, they're all over the place. Pick up a codex and you'll see that there's tons of named heroes.
Yeah, most of the lore that we read comes from the codexes. And that's where you're going to find every single race has a specific HQ that's named. So
I can't even think of anything that has unnamed character, or like unnamed characters, because like even the Tyranids have them. Old One Eye, the Swarm Lord.
Yeah, the Dark Eldar have what's his name, Vect.
Yeah, Asubel Vect. But yeah, I mean it would make sense that the Tyranids don't, because obviously they're just like devourer, mindless. Well, they listen to the hive mind, but like, yeah, but they still have them.
Yep, he's the Old One Eye.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like memes of him, like, "Oh, you're still alive," because he's died like 3 or 4 times, but
Right.
he just comes back because he is just part of that whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, every race has it. Farsight. Even the what's the newest one that came out?
For which one? What race?
The Skitari.
Oh, they have.
Is
the
it just
big guy.
Belisarius Call?
Yep.
They don't have anyone else?
Nope.
No. See. Everybody has it.
Yep.
Everybody gets at least one.
Next question comes from Normsky B. Yeah, Normsky B. What was the Emperor doing during the Golden Age of technology? He was hiding. He's like, technically he's hiding now. If you read the lore, the Emperor from the very beginning wanted to stay out of humanity's
influence.
Well, not influence, but like
the
limelight.
Yeah.
So he would never be someone with position of power. That's why we've talked about this in the past. There are theories that he was Alexander the Great, and the reason for that, well, there's a lot of reasons why he might have been Alexander the Great, but one of them is that Alexander the Great named one of his like favorite horses a certain name, and the Emperor's flagship or one of his battle cruisers or something like that has the same name. So it's kind of like a connection between the kind of the same chariots and all that kind of stuff. But that wouldn't really make sense because he's supposed to be in the shadows guiding people, but never actually like saying, "Hey, it's me." And even if he uses fake names, like you're already putting yourself out there. So I think he influenced like Jesus, Alexander the Great, all that kind of stuff.
Kanye.
Yeah, he influenced Kanye. That's why Kanye's doing church. What is it called?
Yandi.
Is that what his Sunday thingies are?
Well, I don't know what his Sunday thingies are, but he got his new album out,
which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what he was doing during the golden age of technology. Same thing. He was still on Terra though. He was still posted up on Terra, kind of like trying to understand what the human Federation was up to.
I mean, he did go to Mars to make the treaty and whatnot. Was that after? I think that was after.
That was during the Unification War, or like towards the end of the Unification War. But yeah. Next question comes from Nuno Segura. He asks, if the Imperial Creed / the religion of the Imperium is it came from heresy, does it make it heretical? Because last year you guys learned that Lorgar was actually the one who penned the Lectitio Divinatis, or Lorgar's book, that painted the Emperor as a god. So everybody worshiping the Imperial Creed now in the 41st or 42nd millennium now worships or adheres to something that the Emperor didn't want humans to adhere to, and it was created by Lorgar, who was influenced by chaos from his very, I wouldn't say birth, but like when he was dropped on the planet. Yes, it's heretical.
It is. And that's just like one of the things that Lorgar is like mocking the Emperor for, because it's like, oh, look at everything you tried to do to make this not happen, and it's like it ended up happening anyway.
Yeah, so it's bad for the imperial truth, which is what the Emperor wanted to put out there. He wanted no religion. He wanted all priests and all that kind of stuff destroyed. And in reality, it's the opposite. But at the same time, the reason that humanity and the Imperium of Man is so backwards, and they tried to kill like anything that is pushing humanity forward, is because of those doctrines, those like backward ways of thinking that comes from worshiping the Emperor. So even the term like heretic, calling somebody a heretic, was not something that was happening during the Great Crusade. So you asking if it's heretical is really you in the mindset of the Imperium nowadays, which didn't exist back then.
Right.
So it wouldn't be heretical, it would just be something that the Emperor wanted to destroy. So bad.
Yeah.
The closest thing would be bad. It's 2019, you have to be more woke. You need to start thinking about the imperial truth and not the Imperial Creed.
Right. And it's funny because like even though like the Imperial Creed took power and like the ecclesiarchy was formed and the Sisters of Battle, like that's still kind of aiding the Imperium in its own way. You have the Saints, Saint Celestine, which is being powered by the Emperor, so it's not all bad.
Yeah.
But still.
It might end up saving humanity because the Emperor is becoming a god. Next question comes from Defool06. What kind of food does Tau eat?
Puss. Like cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They eat cats. Because they're connected to felines in a certain way that humans are not. When humans see felines, cats, they think, "Oh, that's cute." Tau do not.
They say,
Yummy. Check out our 40 facts on the drinks and cocktails of Warhammer 40K. I had a little bit of what is it called? Just freedom to kind of make my own lore, and I said that Tau would drink an alcoholic beverage that's very similar to sake. So just kind of because of the connection with like Japan and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Claro.
Next question.
This one is by Jonathan Perry. What are your thoughts on Cypher showing up on the rock in the lion's chamber and waking him? Since Cypher is known for showing up in places that he shouldn't be, I think that if he were to do this, it must bring the Legion back together and end the shame that we all feel. Plus, it'd be cool as hell to have the lion walk out with Cypher.
I think it would be interesting just because it does create that dilemma of like, yes, these guys are the fallen. These guys are supposed to be the ones that betrayed the lion when he came back, but now they're helping him.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be kind of cool.
Or maybe they know that once the lion wakes up, he'll be in their favor. So maybe it's not a good thing for the Imperium that Cypher's doing it. Maybe he knows or he has some way to turn the lion to chaos.
Yeah, because you don't really know yet, right?
Yeah.
Cypher might be good, he might be bad.
Mm-hmm.
What was he during the resurrection of Gilliman?
From what we know, he was aiding the Imperium.
Oh.
Yeah, but he kind of has his own agendas, and they kind of just aligned with the Imperium. So who really knows? Maybe he's just an Alpha Legion spy. That'd be cool. Crazy if he was actually Alfarius in disguise. He's just like donning the armor and like the weaponry and everything of Cypher because he killed him to take his identity.
There's so many theories you can come up with Cypher. We should do that. We should do all the theories of Cypher.
Theory number 1. He is Miguelito.
Yes. And those are the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Did I say that right? Yeah.
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 Put question in front of your questions. Thumbs up questions that you like and you want us to cover. And if we don't get to your question, just try again. Dust yourself off and try again.
This is Gershwan,
the Sound Alchemist, and we are out.
Oh, if you took my freedom back.